unproductive but unforgettable. This evening, you'll have the wins, the mistakes, and the moments that made it all worth it. So ask your questions, take your notes, and don't hold back. Let this session be the very first step in discovering what's possible, because your elective is more than a checkbox. It's a chance to shape your journey in medicine. Welcome once again, and let's get started.
Thank you, Noha, for that warm and heartful welcome. It was a fitting start to today's proceeding. Now, it's time to introduce the heart of our today's session, our panel of amazing resource persons. Each of them has embarked on a unique elective journey, and today they are here to walk us through their experiences, challenges, lessons, and personal growth. Please join me in welcoming our panelists, Dr. Dineshani Hettiarachchi, Mihidini Hapuarachchi, Maheshi Bandara, Nuani Netsarani, Nesandi Silva, Minul Dolivira, Visal Pereira. I kindly invite all our resource persons to the stage. And to guide today's discussion, I kindly invite Tara, who will take the same forward as the moderator.
Good afternoon, everyone. A warm welcome to our DISCOVERMED session organized by the Clinical Society of the University of Colombo. I'm Tariq and I'll be the moderator of today's event. As you know, the electives program is a unique and liberating phase in our curriculum. It's a 4-week self-directed journey that allows us to explore, learn, and grow, not just as students, but as future doctors and as individuals. On our panel today, we are privileged to be joined by Dr. Dineshani Hettiarachchi, the previous governor of the Electives Committee, Mihidini Hapuarachchi, who did her electives in the Department of Anatomy, Genetics, and Bioinformatics at our very own Faculty of Medicine, University of Colombo, Visal Pereira, who did his electives at the National Hospital of Sri Lanka, Minul Dolivira, who did his electives in Teaching Hospital Anuradhapura, Nesandi Silva, who did her electives at National Hospital Galle, and Nuani Netsarani, who did her electives in Gampaha Vikramarachi Ayurvedic Teaching Hospital, and finally Maheshi Bandara, who did her electives in Australia. So let's dive right in. Let's start from the beginning. So madam, could you classify us on the types of electives available to students? How are they broadly classified, and could you just give us more information about it?
So thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you for the University of Colombo Clinical Society for this opportunity to discuss about electives. So broadly, I would like to classify it as local and international electives. So you can either decide to do it locally or abroad. And in terms of specialities, what areas to choose from, we see clinical electives where you choose a clinical specialty. Or we also see research-based or lab-based electives where you go and observe certain tests being done in labs. Then there are electives where you do it in NGOs or private sector institutions. And there can be electives where you combine both. Maybe you see clinical patients as well as you go to a lab and observe how the tests are being done, especially in the genetics unit. You get the opportunity to do both. Then there are interdisciplinary electives where you can do it in a different discipline, like maybe arts, engineering, even law. Those are very interesting and very sought out electives sometimes. And also you can do something like artificial intelligence. So in a nutshell, elective should not be sort of confined to a particular area. It is something that is interesting to you. It has to spark a curiosity or interest within you. So as long as it's related to medicine, it can be anything. Right? So anything. So I advise students to choose the elective So that is a way of selecting the electives and the broader classification of electives.
Alright, so have you seen any students do any out-of-the-box electives? Are there like any institutional partnerships that they can join to?
Yes, there have been so many really interesting electives, especially on, to name a few, dance therapy, art therapy, and yoga. Also, a few students who developed AI tools to in radiography to identify early detection of those things. Then even in dentistry, maxillofacial surgery, plastic surgery, those are like, even though they are a part of the curriculum, they are not explored in detail in the curriculum. So those were some of the interesting electives like aviation, medicine, and even within the Ayurveda sector, I saw some very interesting electives being carried out.
Alright, so now let's have a brief overview of the electives conducted by our panelists. Starting off with Medhi.
Okay, so next slide. Yeah. So what I did was the exploring functional data diseases in the Department of Functional Genetics and Bioinformatics. But I actually did was there's a process called next generation sequencing, where you diagnose the diseases. And what we have to do here is more sequencing. So my elective was based on that. And what you can diagnose using the whole sequencing and basically learning about the diagnosis. So I just the name of that was yeah. So my objectives that I wanted to cover during the electives were understanding the next generation sequencing process, which was achieved, and then descriptive analytics of their diseases, which I couldn't completely finish, and but we chose this measurement cohort and then did a cohort study of the descriptive analysis of the genetic landscape in the measurement potential. And about clinical evaluation, which was done prior to the whole exome sequencing, went to the clinics and saw the counseling being done in post-test. And so another one that we wanted to do was develop and diagnose disease database. This we started actually because there was a lot of data to enter with it. We couldn't finish, but I believe after my year, there were so many people who were doing the electives in the same unit, they continued it. So yeah, these were some of the pictures that we could get hands-on experience about. This was actually in the cytogenetics laboratory. We see the karyotyping being done, and you can see the DNA being extracted for the PCR and exome sequencing. So yeah, it was a very interesting experience. Moving on.
Thank you, Medini. And now let's hear from Sat.
Yeah, this is my elective. I basically did an elective in the National Hospital of Sri Lanka, and I focused on doing an elective on intensive care medicine. So the title is Comprehensive Critical Care, a detailed exploration of medical and surgical intensive care in severe patients at a tertiary care center. So basically, next slide, please. Yeah, so basically what we did was we went to both medical ICU and surgical ICU. And we wanted to see how patients were managed. But if you saw the title, I use the word comprehensive. So you all might know that when a patient comes and has to go to the ICU, they're first admitted to the ward, and then they're taken up to the ICU. Once they're managed in the ICU, they're sent back to the ward. So that is called step up and step down. So we saw it like a cycle, and therefore our objectives were sort of structured like that. Next slide, please. Yeah, so that's how we sort of structured our objectives. So our first objective was to understand how the patients were stepped up and when they were stepped up. And then once they got into the ICU, how were they assessed? And what were the monitoring equipment used? And then in the ICU, you know that there are these multidisciplinary rounds where different people come in. So we want a little bit of that as well. And then once they were managed, how were they sent back to the ward? And finally, we sort of wanted to be a bit innovative during our activities. And therefore we developed a handbook ICU people can use when sending a patient to the ward, which I'll describe a bit later. Yeah. And these were some of the images. So there are pictures of us in a multidisciplinary team meeting, that is us doing EPGs, and then I'm sure some of you all would have come to the medical ICU to hand over blood gas samples. I'm sure some of you all would have done that. So when we were in the ICU, it was all handed over to us, and we used to take the samples and put it in those machines and sort of analyze it and do all of that stuff. Yeah, and then we got to see a lot of these various procedures being done, like bronchoscopy. And can you see the heart image over there? That is actually a very advanced fluid management machine that actually I have never seen anywhere else, and it's mostly there in a developed. And based on that, you can see the stroke body of the cardiac output, and they used to manage the fluids through that. Yeah. So we saw a lot of things, and I'm excited to share that with you.
Thank you, Visas. Now let's hear from the middle.
Thank you for inviting me here, UCCS. So my talk was on exploring point-of care ultrasonography and emergency care in a semi-urban setting, that is the teaching hospital, Anuradhapura. I'm sure all of you all have seen focus point-of-care ultrasound ultrasonography being implemented in the ETU in Colombo as well. So our primary objective was mostly to learn about purpose. But because we wanted to see various things that we as HOs need to know, and that is even questioned from us. But that been almost never in my life in Colombo that I've seen. For example, I've never seen a snake bite in Colombo or several in Anuradhapura. Agrochemical organ phosphate poisoning. They say that you drown in your own secretions. I've never seen that until I went to Anuradhapura. Right? You just see everything. And then plant poisoning like Haneru, and then of course it's a semi-urban setting. So how it would differ from NSSL, and I think one of the most exciting parts of medicine is the emergency medicine aspect of it. So we were working in an ETU, so we got some indirect exposure to that as well. And then Anuradhapura, because we wanted to have some fun. So next slide, please. Yes. So I'll just quickly show you a few things. This is going to give you a taste. So on the left, we see the team. In the middle was Dr. Dinesh, our supervisor. He's an emergency physician, and we loved the staff so much that when we left, we made each and every one. I think around 20 odd people this customized key tag with their faces on it, and like their face with the teaching hospital. We gave that to another card. So we just loved the staff there. And you can see the key tags. That shoulder there was actually was from a very tragic incident where there was a lightning strike to Basavakuluma. Two people came in cardiac arrest, and I think subsequently they passed away. But in this gentleman's shoulder, you can see that typical fern-like appearance that you all would probably learned in forensics. And then the picture below that is me, and Harsha was my partner. We spent 22 hours throughout in Anuradhapura. Not because anyone forced us, but because we just wanted to. You all might think I'm crazy, but then she was crazy too, thankfully. So this on the right is a dead snake that was brought to the ETU after a snake bite. Here you see a CPR machine. So it is designed so that we don't have to give manual compressions. This will do the job for us. This is one of the professors from Rajarata, who is one of the leading researchers in snakes in Sri Lanka. We met him at Rajarata a couple of times, and it is amazing to speak with him. He is such an amazing personality. It is a great opportunity. Here you see myself and Utkarsha. We gave several lectures on ultrasonography to the students of Rajarata who were rotating at the ETU, as well as the ETU staff. And then subsequently we were asked to record these, and we were told that these will be published in the Sri Lanka Emergency Physicians website as part of their ultrasound course. So I did ultrasound physics, and Utkarsha did basics of the parts of the ultrasound machine. And then of course we performed ultrasound. So we worked very hard, and then the next slide was a big take very hard as well. So we went to multiple, I think the greatest thing in Anuradhapura is where Vandana Vigia, these Dracula things were actually drawn at the Raja University. Wonderful paintings, so they're specials. So you see folds there. And then this was our first we were in Komodo. Then you have Acharu, you have Ranma Suina, where you have that portal where you transport to a different thing. I'm trying very hard, but I couldn't, unfortunately. And then this is our gig, which was in all of our cars. And this is, I like to call this my lake. This is my lake because every day when I went from my boarding to the hospital, I walk past this lake. Like every single day, so I'm just like, I have my earphones on, I'm just like jazzing with music, and I'm just walking past this lake. And it was magical to go to work like that. Like I look forward to going to work because it is just wonderful to. Never before in my life have I wanted to live in a rural setting. Like I was born in Colombo. I wanted to be in Colombo, but after this I saw the beauty of working in a rural state. So lastly, I actually teared up a bit, when I was like saying bye to my lake. I'm a bit sensitive that way, but yes, this is all for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Minal. Now let's hear from Nisandi.
So me, of course, I thought of doing something which we have never touched much, but there are aspects of sports medicine in what we are learning. So I want to try and do something related to sports because I thought it would be interesting after all, because I wanted the 2 weeks, the few weeks, 4 weeks basically, to be interesting and have something important. Next slide, please. So about the learning objectives, basically we mainly wanted to learn the orthopedic part and of the joints and how to join exactly all the joints and stuff, because nobody really taught us how to fix joints. Like we never knew it until the electives of how to really examine a joint. And we learned a lot about that because we had a very supportive person as a resource person, and he helped us a lot. And then we saw a lot of fractures, and then how physiotherapy is really helpful in medicine. So there we learned that you really can't do everything by just medicine. We need a lot of other teams to help in managing a patient. So basically physiotherapists, they helped a lot, and we learned the interesting things done by them. So there were trans-electrical cutaneous nerve stimulations, and we were chance to do it. So next slide, show some pictures. So I'm so sorry, I don't have much pictures because we were asked not to take pictures because we are ruining the privacy of patients. So we had to be please you have to take pictures. So we didn't take much pictures. So that machine is the tennis machine that I was talking about. So they find that when you have a painful joint and let's say it doesn't work with any of the medicine and all, you apply that and then they keep it for some time, then they repeat it over the few weeks, and therefore the pain literally goes away, and they're really happy about the treatment. So after all, it's the physiotherapist that has done a great healing. And well, of course, I got a chance to exercise using that was there. And yeah, so it was fun, and then of course golf. So I'm from Panadura, which is not Colombo, but still I wanted to go out and see what's there, and well, of course have fun, just like you said. So we went all around golf, water, and everything along with this, and enjoyed. Basically learned a lot about sports medicine. Next.
Thank you. Now let's hear from Novani.
Okay, so I want to talk about another interesting field which you can explore in the areas, which is Ayurvedic medicine. But we prefer the use of medical therapy in Ayurveda. So objective was to observe and develop basic knowledge and understanding about medical leech therapy, and also how varicose veins was managed by medical leech therapy. So the outcomes we achieved during our electives was we were able to appreciate the holistic approaches for the patient, because we already know about the Western medicine practice of the patients, of the diseases, but there were some many alternative medicines that are still practiced in Sri Lanka, which is the communities Ayurvedic medicine. And also we were able to get a basic knowledge about Ayurvedic medicine, which was also quite interesting medicine. Apart from the medicine, and also the medical leech therapy. So these are some pictures from the our electives. So we had the experience to observe how the medical leech therapy was done. So there were medical leeches which are some specific. There are hundreds of
there were few specific streets which are used for medical niche. So they were prepared before applying to a patient with turmeric powder, water, which you can see in the pictures. And then you apply the leeches to patients. This is for a varicose veins patient. So this is kind of a blood-led injury. And after about 20 minutes, the leeches will spontaneously detach. And if it is not detached, then you apply turmeric powder, then the leech will detach. So after this detachment, we have to handle the leech. We have to induce vomiting of the leech to reduce the blood vomiting. Otherwise, leech will die. So this was a new experience for me, and it was quite fun. But it seems to be disgusting, but it was fun.
Thank you. Now let's finally hear from Mahesh.
Alright, so the first I heard about electives, what I imagined was to do my electives abroad. So as I imagined, I did my electives abroad. So I did on the role of general practitioners in the primary healthcare system in Australia. So though it mentioned Australia, our actual study setting was in Melbourne, Victoria. It was around Pakenham. So we were doing electives in Gynecology Super Clinic and Glasgow Super Clinic. So those were like GP settings basically. So our objective was to describe the primary healthcare system, general practitioners role in treatment and health in Australia, and compare and contrast the primary healthcare system in Australia and Sri Lanka. So at the end of our electives, our outcomes were to appreciate the primary healthcare system and general practice in Australia. Unlike Sri Lanka, we do have general practitioners, but Australia, they have a very organized general practice system. So like basically their health system is run, they are the ones who are running the system. So unlike in Sri Lanka, we can directly go to specialists whenever we want, whatever you do, you can just choose and just go. But in Australia, you have to go through the general practitioner to reach a specialist. And most of the time, all of the medical problems, it's mostly treated by general practitioners. So mostly they are the ones who are actually running the system. And we learned about the differences and similarities of the primary healthcare system in Australia and Sri Lanka. So in Sri Lanka, it's mostly the MOHs, like. So, but in Australia, they have a general practitioner system, and there are similarities and there are differences. But I think we have a very organized system more than Australia, and we are managing a lot of patients without much facilities. But yet it's a very good opportunity to see like a healthcare system in a developed country. So we were lucky enough to experience patient care happening in a different setting outside Sri Lanka. So yes, there were a lot of stuff happening. So I think the next slide. Okay, so these are the settings that we went and observed a lot of stuff. So on the left-hand corner, upper corner, you have the setting that we did our electives, and there were this consultation rooms, and there were the left lower corner, you can see the pathology and other investigation request forms, and the medical, they are patient management system. They have electronic patient record system. So it is I think we are also moving on to electronic patient records, but they have a very organized system, which is connected to a central system, and they have a lot of patient education strategies also. Preventive sector is also very, very strong. So they have many brochures, and there were a lot of QR codes to scan, and a lot of information is available online. So I think we also have it, but it's not very organized in Sri Lanka. But in Australia, it's very, very organized. There are a lot of information in the internet where people can easily access and get to know more. And there are a lot of helplines and these screenings, screening programs that are happening in the GP clinics, there are skin cancer happening in Australia. So they have this skin cancer screening programs. So there are a lot of things happening in GP system, unlike in our
very nice to know stuff. And yes, so we had 4 weeks, and we went to Australia, so we can't just come, just finish our electives and come back. So we had a lot of fun, but the pictures are not here. So, we were able to experience a lot of new things. We were able to travel, and, at one point, me and my friend got lost because we chose the wrong metro, and we went to another, a different area. So there were a lot of adventures, experiences. So I think it was a good experience. So that was all about the elective. Thank you.
Thank you, Maheshi. So thank you all for your brief introductions. So first question that we have to ask you all is, what made you guys choose your electives? Like, was it a personal interest or was it just a future goal? Why don't you start?
Yeah, so I'll kind of take you through the thought process that I had when I chose my electives. So having spoken to seniors and friends, I realized that there are three basic lines that people commonly chose. Number one, they just do something for the sake of doing it and just get it over with, and then use the remaining time to study. Huge waste of opportunity. The second option is you do something that is purely for interest. For example, if you do something that is not really in the line of work of medicine, but you're really interested in it, and there is some application, but you don't know how and when you will be applying it as a job. That's the second group. So it's very interesting, but questionable about when you will apply. The third is where it is interesting to you, but it's also something that you will be applying day in and day out as a doctor. I personally went for the third line. I feel like the work working is just taking off. This is a golden opportunity, and you'll see why. I went for the third one, where I will be doing something that I felt I will be able to use as a doctor. So that is why I went for ultrasonography, because in my years of in the wards, I've seen that there are increasing users for ultrasound. We now just use it for the fast scans or the dengue scans and all. But then when you read around, you will see that in other countries, ultrasonography is in the undergraduate curriculum. In US, I think 2/3 of the medical schools had it by 2014. That is because in the future they say ultrasound will be like a visual stethoscope. Doctors will have a portable ultrasound in their office when it becomes a portable, right? So because everything that you do with the stent, you can do much better with an ultrasound. For example, pleural effusion, you need it to be like 200 ml or even more to get it with the stent. With the chest X-ray also similar, but ultrasound even 50 ml or so you can detect. So it's very sensitive. So basically, I felt that it would be extremely useful, and that's why I chose ultrasound. About the setting, why Anuradha? Well, one, we heard that Dr. Dinesh, the consultant, was very interested in ultrasonography at the writing program. So that was one reason. But also, we had the other points of seeing snake bites, seeing organofossils, etc. And I think more than anything, we just want something fresh. Having lived my entire life in Colombo, I wanted to just live on my own in a faraway place, do what I want whenever I want. That freedom, I'm pretty sure many of you all might have, but I have not. Right? So I just wanted a fresh perspective, and that is one of the main reasons for choosing Anuradhapura. And Anuradhapura had a good enough patient load to get enough patients for us to see, and a lot of them came to a single unit. Now in NHS it's very fragmented, where you have accident service one side, medical to one side, LR to one side. Here it was more centralized, not as much as I would have liked. It was more centralized. So those are the various factors that I personally took into consideration.
Yes, Sandeep, what made you choose yours?
Of course, I was bored because I wanted to go out when NHS Colombo, because we do all our clinicals in NHS Colombo, and we need to see what is happening outside. So that is why I chose Goa. And as a girl, I had to think about my accommodation. So I had a friend who had a boarding, and I could stay in her place. And my friend also had my friend's sister, so accommodation was free for us and easy. So it was a different setting, accommodation free, so I chose both. But then sports medicine, because I have to say it is to do with personal interest. I was not really focused on something which is important in my career in future, but I wanted to do something which is interesting within these 4 weeks and just take it as a new experience, like make use of those 4 weeks to learn something new. And then I thought about I think sports medicine is something that everybody tries to touch. So what I really main focus is what's happening in a unit outside Colombo, where I don't have a lot of facilities. Like for example, they do have health promotion activities. So one thing that I found in my objective was like we thought there will be health promotion activities, and when we went there, we found that there were no health promotion activities. So it was just individualized. So my advice to you all is before going wherever it is out of Colombo, properly research about that place. So that was a mistake that I can address. So then that was just one drawback. But that it's basically of your personal interest and to learn how physiotherapy acts on medicine. Because we have physiotherapy students here, but we don't know on to which extent they are helping us. So there I learned that they really do help us a lot and they taught us a lot of things.
Alright. So when you guys start planning these electives, it's always a long process and it's really stressful. Maheshi, since you did yours in Australia, how did you go about planning your elective? How did you choose your supervisors? And how did you go about with it?
So, doing an elective abroad, I think there's additional steps when you're going to do elective abroad rather than doing it in a local setting. Because you need to plan, like, you need to plan beforehand, and you need to apply for visa, and you have to have your accommodation, you have to have your air tickets, you have to have, some money in your pocket, and, you have to sort it out. Because you are going to a different setting, you don't know anything about the setting, and you need to have a proper orientation about the setting. So in our case, we started planning. Actually, we had the initial idea that we were going to do it abroad in Australia, because we had accommodation there. That's why we chose, because it's very, very hard to find, and it's very, very costly when you're going abroad to have accommodation, unless you have a person or your family there. So we decided to do our electives in Australia, but first we had to decide what the topic that we are going to do. So we chose and we talked with him. So and he was the one who helped us to develop our concept about electives. So that was about the type, like the topic. Then about the logistics. So in that case, so our elective it happened in August 2023. So we started our visa application and everything 4 months back. So around April or May. Because the thing is, I think it's going to be different the country that you are going to do electives, because for Australia it's very, very hard to get visa, and you have to have your documents properly prepared and submitted, and there's a whole process that you have to go through. So we started our thing in May, and the visa application process and everything, and the articles and all these things. So from my perspective, it's about to start other things. The major problem that we had was initially we had a date, I think we were given May or June for our elective to be done, but it postponed. So because of that, we had to change our plan. The thing is, if you're going to plan your do your electives abroad, I think it's better to confirm your elective dates, and then you can start planning. Because the thing is, if you I think I can talk about only about Australia, because that was my experience. For Australian visa also, you can apply 4 months before. So I think it will the dates will be conveyed to you. So after that you can start planning. But before that, you can get an idea about what is the topic that you're going to do, and choose your supervisor and get an idea about the setting that you're going to do your topic. Because the thing is, now you know what you can do in this setting, but when you go outside, you will think something, but you won't be able to complete completely in that different setting. So it's very, very crucial to talk with your supervisor, who is abroad, and get the idea about the setting. Because like for an example for us, in Australia, it's the patient interaction is very, very hard, because the patient confidentiality is very, very important in that setting. Even for medical students, even the consultant is very, very hard to deal with patients. So that was so we had to consider that point when we planned our electives. So that's what. So my advice is, if you're planning, you can have an initial idea, and build it. You can build that idea with your supervisor. Get an idea about what you're going to achieve during that time. Don't have expectations highly stacked up, because anyway you get 4 weeks, and you have actually you have to do your work within 3 weeks, and the final thing is for your reporting, so that you have objectives that is achievable. So it will be a very, very fun activity, as well as you will be able to learn also. Because as Minu said, I think elective is something that you have to achieve something, because it's not worth wasting. That's my advice.
So, madam, I'm sure you've gone through many elective proposals and so many of all. And usually students pick a topic that aligns with the curriculum. So what's your advice on taking it further, and what are some things that we should avoid?
One thing is that when you look at the curriculum, don't stick to the usual subjects that are covered. And when Indika was the chairperson, he always used to advise students to go away from the teaching hospitals, because you have already been in those settings, you have interacted with those now. So as Minul and the others were gone abroad, and that learning in different settings, it's a unique experience. So it's not only the educational aspect of it, but it is also life lessons, inside that elective program. So go away and seek opportunities elsewhere. So as much as possible, that is what we encourage. And if you really want to do something within the curriculum, look at a different avenue. Don't do the same thing that is covered in your lectures, because what we see most often is when you do that, and when you start writing your report, you replicate what has been done in your lectures. And these reports will go to subject experts, right? And they will look at it and be like, this is just my lecture being copied. It's not elective, right? So I have had so many instances where the examiner calls me up and they're like, I can't pass this report, what do I do? Because this is exactly of my PPTs. So you don't let those things happen, because this is the only opportunity for you to do student-led, student-directed learning in your entire curriculum. You are free to do whatever you want in the medical sphere. So use this opportunity, and as Mino said, don't waste it. It's a golden opportunity for you to really see where you are interested in, what are the fields that you want to explore maybe as a career in the future. Right? And also, I would like to mention, now there's within the past 2 years, I've seen there's a growing interest in cosmetic procedures, cosmetic dermatology, and so on. So when you choose a setting like that, sometimes there are 3 or 4 groups in the same setting. Maybe it's a different doctor, but in the same setting. And then they come and tell me, I could observe because that patient only allowed one person. So the half of the electives, they are just sitting outside the waiting room. So that's why I think it's important that you communicate with your colleagues. If your other friends are choosing the same setting, make sure that you go to a different. Don't choose the same setting and get saturated. There are little things that you have to communicate with your colleagues and plan out.
Right. So when making these electives, we are supposed to set clear learning objectives. So how important is it to set it, and can you share me an example of one of yours? Nuwani Nasan?
can't just skip into the medical research without knowing anything about Ayurveda. So the specific objective, we first learn about the basics of Ayurveda, and then second we learn the basics about medical research, and then in the third specific objective, we observe and we observe the medical research being used in private hospitals management, because the medical research per se is a vast the medical therapy which is used in many conditions. There are so many indications of the medical therapy, not the private management. Choose one specific and focus. That's what you have to do. Clear specific objectives. Because you have to cover those specific objectives to write the report. And the reader should be able to understand
Sandeep, would you like to share us?
So it's basically that what so when we were setting the objectives, we really did not know promotion activities. But then when we went there, luckily there were personalized advices given, plans, personalized diet plans, personalized exercise plans, but not a broad scale health promotion activity. So that was a miss from our side, but however we managed to show the reports so that the sending personalized diet plans and exercise plans. So yeah, that's basically it about it.
So 4 weeks can feel like a very long time or very little time, depends on how you look into it. So what did you guys do to make most of the period? Walk us through what you did every day, your key activities, settings, and your learning experience. Maybe?
So when I first thought of this electives on genetics, I went to the research and I was so fascinated with it. I just want to do something with it. Thank you for the amazing guidance you gave me. So Madam told us that we can divide our time. There are so many clinics happening. So we allocated specific times in the week, so we don't get confused on what to do on the. So there was cytogenetics and there were laboratory days. So we allocated those days for those laboratories. Cytogenetics and likewise, so many labs. There were other stuff to do. We had to talk with the PGs in the genetics unit and get their insights on the main genetics was because I am interested in doing that. So I used this time to ask for their advices on what to do next, and it was so helpful. So the 4 weeks actually flew because there was so much to do, and when we started preparing the presentation, and we had to whole stacks of things that were like the clinic grade tours, and which were like very hard to read. And so we prepared them, and then we started entering them into the database. There was a lot of work to do. He said it's important that you get smart goals, specific, realistic, and time specific. I think. Yeah. So when you stick to smart, achievable, and you can spend your time. And in the morning, we use smart goals, and in the evening, like we have time to have fun rather than even an AC room here. So we had the comfort of doing whatever we wanted to do, and yeah. So plus to have the first-hand experience of that, and it also realized that if we know about the alternative medical therapies in Sri Lanka, which is also quite popular among the rural and suburban population, because it is still being used for the
varicose management because most of the people who went to the medical leech therapy for varicose management was because they were afraid of the surgery. And also it was quite effective because the patients who were being followed, they had the result, good results. And what I wanted to say also, because you only get this for period, so don't just sacrifice the whole 1 month stressing on your activity. So you have to have fun with your friends and family. And when you're going to the final year, which is next year, please. So don't, you might regret that not making the most out of this break. So don't just sacrifice your whole 1 month to just for your and have fun.
Alright, thank you. So as you all do this electives, I'm sure there'll be a lot of obstacles that you go through. So what were some of the biggest challenges that you guys faced and how did you overcome them? Visa?
Yeah, so a lot of the other talked about going out of Colombo and going out of this place, but I was here and I was an NHS. So for the few of you who may not be able to go out, NHS is still a very wonderful place to work because it's not only the largest hospital in Sri Lanka, it's also one of the largest in Asia. So there's definitely experience for you there. So obstacles wise, so I did an elective in the ICU, and being students, what I thought was I'm going to go in the ICU and a doctor is going to look at one like, why is he here? Like, he doesn't know anything about this. Was my thought. So I was very worried going to the ICU, but the ICU is apparently an excellent place to learn because it's not only you. It's a lot of registrars there who are doing something called an ICU appointment. So all of them are also learning with you and they're willing to teach you. So you don't have one teacher, you have many teachers from many different places. And so that's one thing. And the other difficulty will be, I know you all have done critical care module, but that module is only 5 days. Yeah. So I'm sure 5 days don't suffice for all the ICU knowledge that you can get, right? But as Madam said, it's very important to select objectives that do not clash with your model. So therefore what we did was, we tried to learn about the practical aspects of it. How do you send a patient to the ICU? How is the patient looked after at the ICU, which is somewhat taught in the module. Yes, but we tried to look at other aspects of it. What did the patient feel after being at the ICU? Was one thing that we checked. And how is the patient sent back to the ward? Right, so that was another thing. So we saw it as a cycle. And therefore, we planned our objectives according to that cycle. The other thing is, because we don't have a very in-depth knowledge about ICU, a good place to study there is the library. So if you go to the library, there is this nice book written by Dr. And it's called Handbook of Critical Care Medicine. We learned so much of that book, and by the time we were done with the ICU appointment, we were even able to set up a ventilator for a patient. So we had learned all that, not only from the book, but also from the guidance we got. So being medical students who have trouble taking history, if you are able to end up, setting up a ventilator, you've clearly achieved something. Yeah? So what I have to say is, try to set up an elective very vague. So don't look at one thing. That is what I thought. Like when I was going into critical care medicine and trying to study that, I didn't want to study one thing. Like maybe I could have studied about ventilators, but I felt like I want to study the whole field in different aspects. Therefore, I would have work to do during those 4 weeks. And I would be, like, it would be a full-time elective. So that's what I did while being at NHS.
So Maheshi, what were some of the obstacles you faced and how did you overcome them?
Yes, so from my elective, I think the most hardest obstacle that we had was to interact with patients. Because, like the patients are the main source, that can you know, the patients, they are the ones who are getting the service, so they are the ones, you know, like relate to the healthcare system. So in Australia, it's, you know, it's not like Sri Lanka. So you know, whenever we go to a ward, or you know, whenever we, you know, walk on a passage, if we met a patient, we are just talking to them, like, okay, I'm a medical student, so you know, the patient will start talking and, you know, giving every detail about their disease and, you know, everything, even their, you know, property details and everything. But in Australia, it's not like that. Even for the consultants, I mean, for the patient confidentiality is it's very important, and there are, like, the details are all in the health record system, health record systems, and only the patient is allowed to know their details, their health details. And you know, like, the consultation sessions are also, it's with the consultant or the treating physician and the patient. So in our case, it was in Australia we had an option. So we before we go there, we have to apply for consent, from the permission from the Australian Health Regulation, the Practitioners Regulation Agency. So we have to formally, you know, send an email saying that we are coming there, and, you know, we want to interact with patients and we need your permission. So something like that should, you know, you can do to interact with patients. So that is from, if so in my case, I went to the consultant that I know, so that's what I have. But if you're going to an elective which is based on a university, then you'll be, you know, like, getting all your, you know, like, permission from the elective itself, as like my knowledge. So from our case, we asked for permission, but it was, you know, the email was, I think, I don't know what happened, but it was, we didn't get a response. So what we had to do was, so we had a senior who did the, you know, the broad, like, elective in Australia or before our year. So what we did was, we went there, and it's not, you know, you can interact with patients in Australia, but you have to have that skill, you have to have that communication skills to talk with patients. Unlike in Sri Lanka, you have to be very careful, and you know, it's not about your history. You just, you know, you can talk with patients, but there are, you have, before you go to a patient and talk, you have to ask your consultant, and you know, whether this is a good patient to talk, because you know, there can be problems. So in our case, what we did was, we talk with patients who are, you know, like, very needy. There are people who need to talk, so you can talk with them. But the consultation sessions were actually, it was very, very confidential. But we were able to talk with our consultant, and through his help only we could assess the electronic health record system, because it's very, very confidential for them, and they are the only ones who are, you know, permitted to access it. So through him we got the access to the system, and you know, we just saw what is happening, how it's, you know, interconnected and everything. And also the health staff who are working in the GP settings. So now the GP clinics, the general practitioner clinics, it's not actually hospitals. Some are in hospitals, but some it's remotely situated. So in that case, you can talk to the, you know, there are nurses, so you can talk with them, and there are other people who are working in the setting. And also there are a lot of information on notice boards, there are a lot of brochures, and the people that are, you know, day to day you can talk with people. So in my case, we have, some of my relatives are there, so I was able to talk with them, you know, how their perspective of the healthcare system in Australia, and how you can, you know, approach it. So I had a, you know, like, a pregnant auntie, so she was able to talk about the midwives and everything. And I had a relative who was diagnosed with CKD, so he was going to undergo peritoneal. So, you know, in that way also you can find information. It's not only about, you know, just go, you know, like, formally going to and, you know, talking to the patient. It's all about your skills. How are you going to, you know, find information? So it's not, you know, like, you can't limit it to this frame and, you know, you have to do it in this way, but you can find coordinated ways. So I think I found a lot of information through them actually, you know, rather than going to talk, you know, going to patient and talking with them. So that was the main struggle that we had, and the other thing was logistics, and, you know, like, you know, going to a different setting and getting used to it. But I think whenever you see finish your medical school era, then you will be going to a place like a very remote place in Sri Lanka, and you will know nothing about it, and you will have to have patience, and you have to work with multidisciplinary team. So this is going to be preparation for that. So my advice is, as Nessa said, before going to a setting, you should know what is happening in the setting. I mean, just get an idea. There are a lot of information. You can talk to your senior. There are a lot of academic staff who are helping with. There are always open to you, and there are a lot of things in the internet. You can go and search and see. So my advice is don't think in a box. You just have to think outside the box, and mainly just grab the opportunity whenever you get it. Right? So that's how you can overcome the obstacles, and that's why you should do an elective and go out, as Madam said. Just go out and do something different.
So, Madam, as we do the electives, we are supposed to maintain a feedback from our supervisors. So, how important is it, and how do you ensure that the supervisors stay with you throughout the electives?
Okay, so choosing the supervisor is one of the main tasks, right? To choose someone who's approachable and who has time for you. And that supervisor feedback is very important, because when you go to the clinic, when you write your reflective log, when you write your report, it's the supervisor that will guide you. And so it's very important that you have that rapport, build that rapport with the supervisor from early on. And there are certain instances that there could be natural disasters. Sometimes there was one group who went to Dubai, and there was this hurricane, and they were stuck in the apartment, and people were elected, right? And not the entire elected, but at least half of it. But the supervisor gave them certain tasks to do. So that means it didn't go to waste. They were always engaged, and there can be instances where the supervisor can have a sort of a family emergency or something, and then he might go missing, or even to get the signature, they might not be there. So I also think it's important to have a secondary supervisor. So if you're going and doing it outside, sometimes I advise students to have a secondary supervisor from the faculty. So if something happens to your primary supervisor, you always have someone to guide you and to direct you in the right direction.
So once we are done with the electives, we are supposed to create a post-elective report. So could you elaborate on what is expected in the post-elective report? Like, what are some of the things that should be involved in it, and what are things they should avoid?
So usually we have a word limit, about 1,000 words, right? So what I always see in elective reports is the ones who score good marks is that it should be original, authentic and genuine, right? If you copy paste from another group, so one instance was that so these two groups lived in two different settings. So one group was towards the beginning of the numbers, maybe 2 or 3. The other group was about hundreds. So they lived in two different settings, the same topic, right? But they copy paste, one group copy paste from the other group, and they forgot to take the pictures off. He said content expert. So these both groups ended up with the same examiner. And this examiner also happens is one group has copied from another group. I don't know which group has copied, because the pictures are the same. So that things like that happen, it's blatantly obvious that one group really didn't do anything. Right? They just wasted the opportunity. So don't let things like that happen. So if you are original, authentic and genuine, you can write a fabulous report. And with the report, that reflective log is also important. And especially when you do it in groups, what we see is both partners are writing the same thing. How can your reflection be the same thing? It can't be. So think logically. So when you write a reflective log, your one has to be different from your partners. I know you will discuss and write, but what was your experience? So if you didn't put your heart and soul into it and write what you felt, then there's no failing. Electives is a component in our curriculum that we shouldn't fail. Right? Because if you fail, that means you did not do it properly. So take that time and really do
some people have done marvelous jobs, like especially like in developing AI tools and all that. But they have really gone into the detail and they have really, you can see that they were really tested. And when the examiner reads that, it is like very obvious that you have put in the work. So if that is there, I mean, everything is sorted then.
To the student panelists, listening to what Madam has said, how did you guys go about writing your report? Prasad, why don't you start with you?
Yeah, so this is a report read by a person, right? So the person probably has a few reports to read, so no one should stand up. So one thing that I did is I went and read a little bit of history of critical care medicine. And what I found was in 1952 in Denmark, there was a huge polio epidemic. And back in the day, they used to have these chambers, they put the patient inside, only the head is outside, and they used to create negative pressure. So when the negative pressure came, the chest expands, and then it goes back, and the chest expands and goes back. That's how ventilators work. But then there was a huge epidemic, and now there were not enough ventilators. And the mortality rate with polio was about 80%. So what they did was they got medical students. The Denmark hospital people got medical students, about 250 to 300 medical students per day. They were brought into the wards, they were given a bag, and they were asked to pump the bag to help that person breathe. That's where critical care medicine was. And that was my introduction paragraph of my report. And that way you catch the person's interest, that whoever is reading it suddenly becomes interested in your electives. And you can be a little bit obnoxious also. So what I mean by that is my justification for doing critical care medicine, actually our justification, was just one line, it was just one sentence. I wrote, despite playing a crucial role at the inception of the field, I meant at critical care medicine, the disappearance of medical students from the field is a disappointing development, was my justification. So I said it is sad that medical students are not there in ICU, and therefore I'm going to the ICU. That was my justification for this. Anyways, so with that, the important thing is, the few key takeaways are, when you are at the elective, take a lot of images. Right? Because you want to prove something, you want to prove you have done something. And the more images there are, the more interesting it is for the person to read it. And as Madam said, go into depth. Show that you have learned something. So basically, like when me and Sonali, who was my partner, was writing it, our aim was to teach the person who is reading. No, I didn't realize it was a content expert, so we have nothing to teach them. But if you go with that in mind, you will create a beautiful report. And stick to the word limit. But then in the annexures, go as deep as you can, right? And show how much knowledge you have gained. And one more thing that we did was, as I told you in the very beginning, we wanted to be innovative. And I hope you all also have that as an objective. Like, at the end of this 4 weeks, I thought I wanted to create something. So we went and spoke with our intensivist, Dr. Dilshan from the MICU, and our supervisor, Dr. Bihar. And we were asking them, what is the thing that is missing at ICUs? And what they told us was that there is no such thing as a handover form. So there is a form that they fill when the patient comes in, but there is no form that you can send back to the ward. So if you all have seen ICU patients, they come with a huge stack of files. No one reads their files. The HO doesn't read it, and none of the staff reads it because it's not practical. No one can read it. So what we decided was we created a two-sided form, just giving a summary of the ICU management. And yeah, so we wanted to sort of streamline that service, and although it's not a huge thing, we thought we'd make a little bit of a difference. So that's where your aim should be. Aim big. And you will be able to work out some interesting things.
Closing the setting now, we mentioned you set up a ventilator, right? So that might not be possible in a setting abroad, right? So you have to really talk to your supervisor and see what is possible. Because some countries, they won't allow you to examine patients. you are now observer, right? So make sure that you know that before you do your objectives and go there. Because once you go there, if they mention you can't touch the patients and you have, written you have to do these procedures and all that, then you can't achieve those objectives. So that's why it's very important to talk to the supervisor and see what is possible in those settings. So I have some groups doing aviation medicine. I think they have several settings. So, but under one supervisor, but they went to so many different settings. That's also possible. So just be open, but always have that discussion with the supervisor before you finalize your objectives.
So, Medini, how did you go on about writing your report?
So my advice would be that you forget what you did yesterday and then better to write it on the day itself. Me and my partner, we finished our reflective logs on the same day itself because we had a lot of things to write. We went to so many clinics, so many laboratories, and we saw so many things. So we wrote them on the day like itself in the morning. So in the evening we had time to do whatever we wanted. Like one of the reasons I had to stay in Colombo because I was facing my violin examinations that time. So I wanted to go home and practice with a peace of mind without having the burden of remembering what I did in the morning. So I finished my reflective log in the same day itself and carried on. And adding on to what Vishal said, I also wanted to give back something. So I highlighted that in my report. And Madam, when we were talking with Madam about what we can do, she said that we don't have a database for undiagnosed diseases. Only that it's better to have a phenotypic categorization. So we started that at least. Even though we couldn't finish it, we took the initiation, we prepared the database, we made a Google form, and it was a very simple thing, but you can highlight and put it into the report and make sure that other person pays the attention and then we see this person has done something back. So yeah, and also we focused on, we also was going to a contents. So we kind of had this introduction of what we are doing about and a small thing about the next generation sequencing and the branches and everything. And after that we took time to write whatever we did, and then we had a very good analysis on the discussion. The discussion, we were very comprehensive about the discussion. I think that was the longest part of my report. This was, we spotted this and it was good, and we spotted this and we think it must be improved. That's what we said. So that person knows that you have done something and this person knows what they're talking about. And like I said, we did a descriptive analysis on the service cohort. And we did a presentation on it. We added the entire presentation as annexures. So you can do that. Like annexures, you can add whatever you want. We added the entire database. We prepared the annexures and all the pictures and even the stuff we saw in the laboratory, the steps that they do the PCR extraction. Everything we added to the annexures. So this person knows that you have put your heart into writing the report.
So finally, as you all know, our batch, the 2020 batch, will be the next batch that's going to do the electives. So any advice for the 2020 batch as we begin planning our electives, especially on avoiding common mistakes,
Yeah, actually, before I get into that, would you mind if I get into one of the previous questions about the supervisors and how to deal with it? So one thing is obviously, as the previous panelist said, you need to choose a very good supervisor. But I also think that a supervisor could be good to you but bad to another person depending on how much interest you show. Because in our case, it was our supervisor who invited us to do that lecture to the medical students. It was our supervisor who invited us to publish that on their website. He is the one who invited us to go to meet Prof. Anjan at the Rajaram University. He took us around the hospital and showed us, even got us a few days to work in other wards as well. We had personally spoken to the consultants, and one day when we had gone off work, we went to our boardings, and at around 9:30 he personally called me and said, there are a couple of snake bites in the ETU, if you can come, you can come. And he asked if we have transport also. So, and then later on we hear from Rajarat students that they are getting scolded because he says, Colombo students are moved on there, so apparently somehow he must have gotten the idea that we like to work. And we did. I mean, even the day of Vesak, I went to the ETU and I did that stuff. So like we did take public holidays off, weekends we went. I think just one weekend I went to Colombo. Other than that, pretty much every day I was in the ETU. So they will be good to you if you show interest. It's just a small message I want to say. So sorry, could you repeat the question?
What are some advices that you would like to give us?
Right. Okay. There's something I would like to show. Could you? Right. Yeah. Really sorry. So there is one thing I want to show. So this is the Sri Lanka College of Investment Management. They offer a basic point of Galson course. This is the one-day course, and you can see that the course fee is 12,000 rupees. Right. That is for one day. So what we got this for 26 odd days. And that was with unrestricted access to the ultrasound. Like sir told, we can use the ultrasound machine whenever we want, as much as we want. So we realized just how valuable this is. On a monetary amount, you should calculate around 3 lakhs of a paid education opportunity, which we got absolutely free. And we didn't have to pay results sent to the Rajaram hospital. So the teaching hospital. So that is just to show you that this is an opportunity you will never get again in your entire life, because you can't be an MO and like write to a hospital saying, I would like to learn about ultrasound. I don't know if that's a thing, but I've never seen that happen. So this is something we get because we are students and because we have the support of the academic staff here, and it is an established program. And I think if there is one thing I want you to remember from this entire discussion, it is that if you end up at the end of those 4 weeks, if you are the same person, if you know the same things at the end of it, then it is an utter shame. You should be appalled, you should be disgusted of yourself, because it is such a shame. You will never get this again, right? Because some of you come and tell me, like, 2 years, my bachelor's also, I haven't really found what I am passionate about in medicine. But something I genuinely, in my heart, I believe, is that medicine has, the beauty of medicine is, it is so wide, that there is something for everyone, like literally everyone. You might not like to go to the wards, so there's so many parametrical things. You might not want to do anything with patients, so there's radiology. And you have medical administration. There is something, so if you are a people person, you don't want to remember anatomy, surgery, everything, you can be a medical administrator. Personally, I don't know much about it, but I don't think they need to know a lot in medicine, right? Actually, in MBBS, it's more enough, right? So what I'm saying is there is something somewhere, and within these 4 years, there will be something that trigger a spark in you. Something, just deep in, and something someday somewhere would have made the wings are built, and they're like, yeah, I want to do this for a living. So just think hard and just make sure that you do not waste these 4 weeks. There are so many people who just slacked off, they just went to the elective setting for 4-5 days. I'm not supposed to say this because Madam is here, but yeah, but they do that. Yeah, so they do that and they waste that 4 weeks and they just study. Like it's such a waste. It's disgusting to hear about that. So just use this just live it, just wake up in the morning, go do your work, go around, develop function, like just make sure that you make the most out of this. Just do not waste these 4 weeks. Only thing I want to say, yeah.
Just to add to that, if you're totally clueless as to what you want to do, there are few emerging fields that are coming up. One is planetary health, one is lifestyle medicine, and that's precision medicine. Those things are not, some of it has not entered your curriculum yet, but I'm pretty sure in the future it will. So do something that is emerging if you are not sure at all.
Maheshi, would you like to give any advices for the 2020 batch?
Yes, so I think most of the stuff were covered by Neil, but I think first of all, choose your supervisor, think about it very carefully, as Madam said, as other panelists said. Choose a person who is approachable and who is, a person who can supervise you. Because there are set of specific, the qualifications that a supervisor should have, especially if you are going outside the clinical settings and paramedical things. So you have to have that, specific qualifications to be, completed by the supervisor that you are going to choose. So just ensure that you have a proper supervisor in abroad as well as in local settings. So in that way, it's very easy to complete your electives, and it's very fun to do the elective. It's not going to burden you, and it's going to be very fun, and you will learn a lot, right? So that is my first advice. And the second thing is, as Vinny said, don't keep reflective log to be completed at the anyway you get a 1 week to complete your report, but that is to the report actually. So there's two different things. Like you have to make a report and you have to do your reflective log as well. So reflective log, the best comes to your reflective log if you do it on a daily basis, right? So do it on a daily basis, because that's why it's very fun. You will see how you are progressing through the thing, and you won't have stuff to be completed at the end of your 3 weeks. And the most the valuable experience, the best comes when you meet on a daily basis. And you can talk with your friends, you can talk with your partner or the group, and you have a set of jot down some points and write it on those points. But put your heart into it, right? So in medicine you don't get a chance to pour your heart, right? So just make that an opportunity to do that, right? Because no one will go to school, I think.
In terms of supervisors, they need not be medical professionals, right? So you can choose anyone in any field. If your private supervisor doesn't have a postgraduate qualification, we advise you to get a secondary supervisor. Right? So if you want to do it under dance therapist or drama instructor, you're more than welcome. But if they don't have a postgraduate, any postgraduate is fine. But if they don't have, then you're advised to have a secondary supervisor.
So the third point is, third and last, follow your passion, right? So in the 6 years, we were in the medical family for 6 years. So during that 6 years, you get a curriculum to complete. So if you like it or not, you have to complete it. Otherwise, you won't get an DBS, right? So this is the only opportunity that you get, to do that whatever you like, and you get a bulk of 4 weeks. And it's very precious, because if you don't have that 4 weeks, you will be able to graduate at least 4 weeks before. But it is there in your curriculum, because whenever we are humans, right? So we have our passions, and sometimes it will be related to medicine, but sometimes it won't be it will be outside medicine. So make this an opportunity to do your follow your passion, and just make a effort to go outside your comfort zone, because you won't live in this small bubble forever, like you will be going out. And it can be a local setting, as Vishal he was doing in NHS, but that ICU setting is very different. It's very different. Like Vishal he has experienced it. So it can be a local setting, something which is very close to you. Genetics, I don't have an idea about what's happening in genetics, but anything has, right? So it can be something in local setting, like call. It's very different, right? But you get new experience. Kampala, it's different, and Australia, it's really different. Like you may see stuff in internet, and you may see stuff on TVs in internet, but those are different, right? So it's actual experience is very different. So my advice is, take a step outside your comfort zone, but follow your passion, because this opportunity will never come. And I'm very grateful for whoever the person who included elective program into the curriculum, because the first day I heard about it, I was thrilled. I was like, wow, I get an opportunity to do something like this. And maybe you have seen me doing music and stuff, but I wanted to do something related to music. But traveling is also something I wanted. I'm in love with. So it's a chance for you to find your passion as well. Maybe you want to be a radiologist, you want to be a genetics person, or you want to be nothing, something like that. But you are in love with sports, you are in love with music, you are in love with traveling. Maybe you want to spend some time with you alone. Just make this an opportunity to do that, and also remember that this is something to be counted in your curriculum as well. So do the reporting perfectly and do the reflective law, because someone is going to read that, and that person should also get something. Because our teachers also, they also like to hear something different and something beautiful from you. Not the clinical vibes and the routine. It's not what we want. We want some change in our life, because then only they also can give something back to you. So yes, just enjoy, guys. This is something that you can do in your medical student life, and you won't regret it if you do it in a proper way.
Alright, thank you. So that brings us to the end of our panel discussion. Thank you all. Thank you to the student panelists and Dr. Dineshani. Before we start off with the audience question, I would like to invite Professor Roach to say a few words.
Thank you very much. Sorry I got late. I'm sorry I'm late, but thank you very much. Fascinating. Follow the passion. That's the key. And you won't believe when we pioneered this in 1995, we had to fight hard with the faculty to give you all 4 weeks. They said, come on, out of 52 into 5 weeks, give them 4 weeks of liberation. Anyway, you got 4 weeks. And that's to follow your passion. And when we evolved, there was a move to have electives in health-related topics. I don't know whether it's so now. We fought hard to get that health part out. Because follow your passion. Passion need not be health-related. You might want to learn something on music or so on. So that's point number 2. Point number 3 is I want to make a pitch for things which are outside medicine. Because you are doing 54 into 5 weeks of medicine. Aren't you sick of it? See, you are giving you 4 weeks to do what you want. Surely in your life you have something other than medicine. Because once you qualify, you'll be doing medicine again. So use it, and you can use it creatively. So we had students, the one criticism we had was, oh, students are learning to sew. Some are learning to play the guitar. Our response was, if the supervisor is creative, you can bring it closer to medicine. The person who is playing the guitar, ask him when he learned, how did he learn the skill? What were the muscles which were involved, and what were the nerves which were involved, and what was the coordination? How did your muscle memory come? And how does it relate to other physical examination skills? And the one who was sewing, does it relate to surgical suturing, and how does it relate, and will you learn the same way? What is the skill? Did you use Miller's pyramid to study this physical skills? So you can, the supervisors can take you to the areas which are interesting. Then when it comes to other opportunities outside the faculty, I don't know whether this was discussed. We have links with Moratua if you want to develop on devices. We have links with SLIT if you want to do on AI. We have links with the visual and performance arts university, just Cotton Place. All the arts are there, right? You want to go to Chitrasena, we'll organize that. You want to see Ravi Bandhu, we'll organize it. You want to do an art course, visual art in health, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, we'll organize it. So just blow your mind. Don't the imagination, this, you know, what's that? Sky is the limit to sky means सामान्य limit to imagination is you. Sky is really limitless. Right? So whatever nice idea you have, discuss. And you know, there will be people in this faculty who will be able to help you, and there will be people who will be able to link with other supervisors, right? Locally as well as overseas. And with our networks, we can make it a fantastic opportunity for all of us. So thank you very much. It's an absolute pleasure to be here and to see, this is how many years now? 30 years since this started. And they almost squashed it at one stage, electives. But I don't think we can ever do that now because students really enjoy it. There's a lot of learning which is happening. And as you mentioned, I was there for your points when you were speaking. See, this can be a transformative change. That's what you were saying. Huh? This can be really transformative. The moment you start doing this, you change, you transform as a person. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. So now it's time for you guys, the audience. I'm sure you all will be having a lot of questions. You can about electives, choosing a topic, choosing a particular place, or any challenges. You're all free to ask anything. You can direct your questions to any specific seniors or the panelists or to the madam as you all wish. Just raise your hands and we'll bring the mic to you.
My question is regarding doing researches during the elective period, because what I heard is some supervisors expect you to do research. So I would like to know what provisions we have, whether the time is enough.
Yes, so to do a full-blown research, I don't think there's enough time because you have to get the ERC approval and so on. But sometimes some of the supervisors might have projects that are ongoing. So you can definitely get involved in that. But since you have a community stream where you focus a lot on research, don't make it the sole objective. So it can be a part of your electives. Maybe one objective can be a research component. We've had students who have presented at conferences, so for example the nephrogenetic cohort, and even I think Minura from the earlier senior batch, he presented in the pediatric college sessions and so on. But that was only one component of his research, the elective. But you can definitely keep the ties with the supervisor, build it up to a full manuscript later on and publish it. There are no restrictions at all in that regard. But don't use electives only to do research, because that is again would be a wasted opportunity to learn something else.
If I may add something to that, so not really research, but our supervisor asked us to do an audit on the ETU to find a place where we do not meet the quality standards, and then we have to collect data to prove that we are not meeting it, and then we have to come through various solutions. We discuss with the staff and the director and all and how to implement, and then we gave the solution, and then our 4 weeks ended. So you could really follow up on it. But like audits are also presented at various conferences I've seen. I really don't know much about how it works. Maybe madam can help us there, but that is something I think you have enough time within your 4 weeks.
Can I also add a little bit over there? So we didn't really do a research, but the critical evaluation is a key thing during your electives. And when we did our electives in the ICU, we were thinking, how do we critically evaluate an ICU as medical students? So we did in both medical and surgical ICU. And if you remember your critical care module, you might have been taught about something called ICU liberation bundle. from A to F, there is like various things. So what we did was we created a small Google sheet, and then we went through sort of ticking after taking permission from our consultants. And then we went through that checklist, and we found like there were serious problems, like family engagement was not a thing in our ICU setup, and assessing pain scores was a thing done at surgical ICUs and not at medical ICUs. And so we included that in our critical evaluation. So not really a research, but going along the pathways.
Any more questions?
This is kind of like a practical question, I guess. So like from some series I've heard that like if you're doing an elective abroad, I suppose like if you have some connection there, you can like find a placement. But if you're like applying for a dedicated electives program and like since you need to apply like 1 year for that period, so the thing is like because of like out of bound leaves and stuff, certain appointments get shifted, and therefore like the period dedicated for electives changed in the timetable. So like how can you exactly like circumvent that problem, because like you need to inform that 1 year in advance, right?
Yes, so unfortunately your electives got shifted. I don't know whether it's unfortunate or fortunate sometimes, because that is to avoid the repeat exam being a hindrance before the elective program, so that you all will be more free to do the electives after all the exams are over. So I mean, you have so much time now. So what I would suggest is start the conversation with the institute that you are going to apply to. Usually they are flexible, but always find out whether you can do it under a particular supervisor for that particular period of time, because some elective programs, designated programs, have specific dates, like this period is for this particular subject, then you have to rotate and so on. So first, if you identify a supervisor and start that conversation and say this is what I want to do my electives in, they can probably tailor it to your needs, rather than you joining an elective program that is already established in that country, because that might not sort of fit into what you want to do. So there were instances where they were asked to like rotate between 2 different departments, and then some students came back to me and asked how do we sort of have the proposal ready, because you have to do 2 different departments and will be under 2 different supervisors. So if you go to an already structured elective program, that might happen, but most of the institutes, as you mentioned, if you know someone, it's definitely easier. But if you are approaching someone like fresh, maybe if you start now itself, there's a lot of time for you to have that discussion, and then you can roughly estimate when your electives are going to be, and that would be okay. And also with the foreign electives, have a backup plan in Sri Lanka, because sometimes we've had instances where visas get rejected, right? So don't wait till the last moment, have another backup plan to do it here if the visa doesn't come through.
So I'm just going to add something to it. So this is not exactly about the foreign electives. There are designated electives programs offered by universities in most of the countries, but there are also, since there are people who are interested in research, there are internships on research, particularly on research, which are 1 month or 2 months. So when I was applying for the electives, I wanted to apply for one of those, and I was asking Madam, who was the convener at that point, and if the timeline matches to your electives timeline, you can actually apply. And there are so many research internships all over the world which we are not aware of, and they are not being publicized in the faculty, but in other countries they do. They have these special notice boards publishing all the research opportunities that you have in every country, so you can apply. And then most of them are targeting undergraduates. Now we have graduated, we can't apply for them because we are now MBBS holders. They want undergraduates who are enthusiastic in research. What you have to do is, once you get the elective date confirmed, you can go to these websites. There are so many opportunities. I think there was one website called Opportunities Corners. There are so many websites, most of them are Indian websites that collect all the research opportunities and list them out. You can go to them and select if that your research components align with them, prepare a good CV and then apply for every single thing that you can think of. They fund you most of the time. They are funded scholarships, so if you have the financial restraint of not being able to not being able to pay for yourself when you go abroad and still want to go abroad and see something for yourself and learn something new, these are the opportunities that you can go for. Yeah, make sure that you research everything, like research as in study on this very well before you start selecting one option. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Just 2 points. If you are thinking of international organizations, go to websites of WHO and places. They have internship, right? They suddenly offer short internship. That's one thing. And Médecins Sans Frontières, they have the Asian offices here. So if you want to go to a conflict area, I don't think they'll send you to Gaza because that's too dangerous. It's too dangerous, but you know, you can really, they will offer those scholars. How many of you all know about Khatargan? Do you all know that we have a rural health center? Do you know that there's quarters there? Walking distance to the hospital, to the MOH, to all those lovely areas, plus close to Yala. That's a university place. That's a faculty of medicine place. Air-conditioned rooms, right? And I think about 6 can stay there, 6 or 8. So it will be subsidized accommodation. So use those. You see, those are facilities of the faculty not being used. Yeah. Thanks.
So this question is for you. So faculty is looking for some things when approving the request, right? For example, especially when we are going outside medicine for other universities, other faculties like engineering or law. So the image that we are projecting is as students of UCFM. So what are the criteria and some flags that the university is looking for when it's approving our request and proposals?
You mean when you apply for an elective as, sorry, I didn't get what you asked, like as in when you approach the elective proposal, or? So we don't give like approval as such. What we expect you to do is, because you'll be going as students of the University of Colombo Faculty of Medicine, so we expect you to carry like the normal courtesy, the decorum and all that, the punctuality, and keep the good name of the university. Other than that, you are free to sort of develop a proposal and then, send it to the electives committee, which will vet your proposal. And if it's appropriate, they will approve, or they will ask for you to revise adequately. Other than that, we don't have huge restrictions as such.
Due to time constraints, we'll be able to take one more question. So, any more questions?
Madam, so if someone is interested in doing the electives alone, should we provide justification as to why we are doing it alone, or is it?
So we encourage you to do in pairs. One thing is because it's a team building opportunity as well. You have someone to, experience life with as well. But if there are instances where you have to do it alone, especially if you are going abroad, then you can't sometimes have a friend with you. And if nobody else is interested in the area that you want to do. So if there is a clear justification, usually we approve. but we encourage you to do it in pairs as much as possible.
Thank you so much everyone for your patience.
Alright, with that we come to the end of our session. To all the seniors and madam and sir, thank you for your taking your time to share your journey with us. You've shown us that electives aren't just a break, they are a bridge to discovery, learning and building our identity as future doctors. We hope forward to take your advice and make our electives meaningful too. Thank you all for being here and hope you all have a great evening.
What an enriching and eye-opening session that was. A heartfelt thank you to our moderator for facilitating such an engaging and well-structured discussion. And to our resource persons, your stories have truly inspired us, and we are sure many students now feel a lot more confident and motivated about their own elective paths. And before we conclude this evening program, I would like to invite Raj Shetty to put the vote of thanks.
Good evening everyone. It was an honor and pleasure to deliver the word of thanks at this remarkable event, DISCOVERMED. Today has been a truly enriching experience. I could have not been possible without contribution and best of so many individuals. First and foremost, I would like to thank and express our gratitude to Saroj sir and Dinesh Sharma for placing this institution in their presence. The unwavering support and commitment to the medical journey continues to guide and inspire all of us. To our esteemed resource people, thank you for sharing your valuable insights, experiences and practical guidances. Your stories have not only informed us about electives, but also ignited a deeper sense of purpose and curiosity. To our fellow students and future elective goers, thank you for being part of this journey. May what you have learned today empower you to explore, grow and contribute meaningfully very good. As we wrap up, let us carry forward the spirit of learning and exploration that today has sparked. Once again, thank you all for making this program memorable and meaningful journey. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Raj. And with that, we come to the end of today's session. We hope this event has sparked new ideas, answered your questions, and given you the clarity and confidence you need for your